Let's read it. He that is wounded in the stones, or hath his private member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. That's an interesting verse.
Wow.
It's pretty deep, man.
Yes.
What you think about that verse, Brother Kevin? What you think about that verse? Who all know what the stones are? You got ears to see, eyes to see. Who know what the stones are? Nobody knows what the stones are? Come on, Brother Sean, you got the answer right at the tip of your tongue. Say it! Come on. Say it in a clean way. Huh? Yeah. What are the stones? Come on, Darren, you got it. What are the stones? All right, come on. So, come on, say it first. Like, come on, you can't say it on the mic. Come on. Come up. Come up and say it on the mic. Come on, you have to come up. All right. Come up here on this stage. Isn't she lovely, ladies and gentlemen? All right. What are the stones? Come on.
Oh.
Did y'all hear that?
Yes.
What did she say?
Wow.
The balls. Say it one more time.
Wow.
The balls. I knew that I was going to wake up this morning. I knew that I was going to wake you up. Now this is in your Bible. God don't want a man in his congregation with no balls. And he said, if that private member is cut off, I don't want that man nowhere near my congregation. Ain't that something? How many of you all knew that this was in your Bible? Amen. He that is wounded in the stones, or hath his private member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. He want that nowhere near his people. Now, when I read this verse, I wondered about this verse. Because at glance, when you look at it, it seems like, okay, Lord, you're saying that you don't want a man in your congregation that doesn't have any balls or has his private member cut off. And then I thought of another verse. Another verse came into my spirit. Isaiah 56, verse 3, 4 and 5. Isaiah 56, verse 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to go back to Deuteronomy 23. So if you want to hold your finger there, Isaiah 56, verse 3, 4, and 5. It says, neither let the son of the stranger, Isaiah 56, verse 3. I'm going to start reading. Neither let the son of the stranger that hath joined himself to the Lord, that's a foreigner, speak, saying, the Lord has utterly separated me from his people. And then it says, neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. Now the Lord said in Psalms chapter 1 that if we meditate day and night on his law, that we would be like a tree planted by rivers of water. But this scripture in Isaiah says, don't let the eunuch say, I'm a dry tree. In other words, I don't have any water. I'm separated from God. A tree with no water, God being the waters of life. He said, don't let the eunuch say I'm a dry tree. Now, how many of you know what a eunuch is? A eunuch is a castrated person. They have no private parts. So if I read Deuteronomy 23:1, he says, I don't want nobody in my congregation with no balls and no private parts. I read Isaiah 56, who also heard from God, and he says, don't let the eunuch say, I'm a dry tree. It almost sounds like a contradiction. How many of you agree? First you say you don't want nobody that don't have no private members and no balls, and then in another place you're saying, don't let the castrated person say, I'm a dry tree. In fact, look what else he goes on to say in Isaiah 56, verse 4. He says, for thus saith the Lord to the eunuch, the castrated man. He says that keep my Sabbath, that choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant, even them will I bring in my house. And within my walls, a place, and it says, within my walls a place and a name better than the sons and daughters. Better than the sons and of daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. He said, I will give them a name better than the sons and the daughters. Now you're talking about the Israelites. I give you a better name than my chosen people. Now that sounds like a contradiction. Who would agree that that sounds like a contradiction? First, you don't want nobody with no balls and no private part. And in another place, you're saying you're going to give them a better name than sons and daughters. Okay? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 23. So here's a question. Is God contradicting himself? Did he change his mind about private parts coming in his congregation? He said, not only the eunuch, he said, you will come into my house, you will have a place in my walls, and I will give you a name better than sons and daughters. You keep my Sabbaths. You like the things that please me. So back to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Back to chapter Deuteronomy 23, verse 1. We're going to go a little deeper into this. Let's change the. That's 23:1. All right. So. Let's work this thing now. So, I was in prayer about this verse, and the Lord spoke to my spirit that this first verse was about fatherhood. If you don't have a private member, if you don't have stones, the spirit behind this verse. Because clearly there's a contradiction. The same God is speaking, right? If you will accept eunuchs and do the things that please you, if you will accept the eunuchs that honor your Sabbaths, and you will give them a name better than sons and daughters, then what did you mean when you said Deuteronomy 23:1? A man that does not have stones or balls or, what's the medical term? Testicles, whatever it is you want to call it. A man that doesn't have that cannot be a father. Now we're talking about the spirit behind this verse, okay? If you don't have a private member, if you don't have testicles, you cannot be a father. Read verse 2 of Deuteronomy 1. Verse 2 of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 23, verse 2. Says, a what? a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to his 10th generation, he shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. The first verse, we're dealing with a man who cannot father children. And in the second verse, we're dealing with children with no fathers. Both of them are excluded from his congregation. A man that is not willing to be a father to his children is excluded from the congregation of the Lord. And a child who is not willing to be fathered is excluded from the congregation of the Lord. And he said unto the 10th generation. And I think that ultimately speaks to some of the damage that can be done to a child when a father is absent. Because guess what? Children with no fathers have children. And children who have not been imparted into by fathers have children, and they pass on the lack of values from generation to generation. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The lack of values. Because God has created the institution of fatherhood to pass on values, to teach and train the next generation. And a man that is not willing to take that responsibility onto themselves, God says, I exclude you from my congregation. But he also turns around and speaks to the child and he says, if you will not be fathered, we exclude you also from the congregation of the Lord. And guess what? Even 10 generations down. That's how important it is for children to have fathers, to listen to fathers, to be imparted to by fathers. And that's how it is important it is for a man to accept the responsibility of fatherhood. Now, you all know we have a society where we got some men that's not accepting the responsibility of fatherhood. And children are going by the wayside because of it. The book of Malachi says it like this. Malachi chapter 4 says it like this. Verse 4. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which commanded unto you in Horeb for all Israel with statutes and judgments. He says, behold, I will send Elijah the prophet before the coming and great and dreadful day of the Lord. We know that Elijah was John the Baptist. And then he says in Malachi chapter 4, verse 6, the purpose of Elijah coming, which was John the Baptist, he had the spirit of Elijah. Jesus ultimately gave that revelation to us. It says, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. God said and raised up a prophetic anointing in John the Baptist for the purpose of turning fathers' hearts toward their children. And he raised up that prophetic anointing to turn the hearts of children to their fathers. And he said if that didn't happen, he was going to smite the earth with a curse. And that's what we have going on today. Because when children are not fathered, and fathers do not care about children, a generation comes up with no values. And they live in sin. And God has to curse what he sees in his righteous judgment. So he raised up the prophetic anointing in John the Baptist to call the hearts of the fathers to the children, and to cause the heart of the children to the fathers. God was trying to connect the two again. And Father, in Jesus' name, we just pray against this fatherless spirit that's been going throughout our society, where fathers can forget their children and do not care for the well-being of their children and don't care for the well-being of making sure that they're raised up in the fear and in the admonition of the Lord. Father, I pray in the name of Jesus, by the power of the Holy Ghost, that you will anoint them and call their hearts to be turned towards their children again. Cause them to care again, Lord. Cause them to bring forth a spirit of rebuke to their own children again. In Jesus' name. And cause the heart of the children to go to the fathers, Lord. To be humble and to submit themselves so that they can receive an impartation of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Ephesians chapter 6. And when the area was here it was. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Says it like this: and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but to bring them up in the nurture and in the admonition of the Lord. Now, God, through Paul the Apostle here, is teaching fathers how to be fathers. And one of the things that he mentions here is that the father should not provoke the children to wrath. Now, this word wrath comes from a Greek word that means anger alongside. Anger alongside. Now, I did a word study on this statement because I wanted to get a better grasp on what Paul the Apostle meant by this provoking to wrath. And he says a very similar thing, the same author, when he wrote the letter to the Colossians, in Colossians chapter 3, verse 21, he says this: fathers, provoke not your children, and it's italicized anger. Now, generally when it's italicized, they added that in there. But, so they thought it would be prudent to add it in there. But what it says is, fathers, provoke not your children, italicized, to anger, lest they be discouraged. Now, there are two things that fathers can do to children in missteps in being in fatherhood. You can provoke your children to be angry or provoke them to wrath. And the scripture says that you can provoke them to anger. Don't provoke them to anger lest they be discouraged or disheartened or spiritless. Now, I think when I look at this verse of scripture, because the scripture is very clear on the father's role as it relates to bringing correction and chastisement in the house. The Bible talks about this, of course, in Hebrews 12, and I'll read it. Verse 9, it says, furthermore, we had fathers of our flesh, which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. And shall not much more rather we be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? And it goes on to say concerning fathers, for they verily for a few days, Hebrews 12 and 10, chastised us after their own pleasure. So fathers chastised after their own pleasure, and it said fathers of the flesh corrected, and when they gave that correction, that they received reverence. Wow. If you do not have reverence in your house lacks correction. you don't have reverence in your house is probably lacking the rod.
For real. That's the truth.
Fathers have the responsibility of making sure that they bring correction, and they have the responsibility of making sure that through that correction they receive reverence. Because without that reverence, you can't give your child that impartation. They ain't going to hear nothing you saying. And the Bible says something clear about chastisement, and I want to bring this out. The scripture says in Hebrews 12 and 11, it says, "For no chastening at the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous." It's not enough parents causing grievousness to their children, and they don't have reverence. It may not be the rod every time, but it needs to be the rod sometime. If you see a continued pattern of disobedience and irreverence, and you can go even further than that. Take phones, take pleasure, take television, small portions of food, whatever it is you need to do to make it grievous. You need to bring in some grievousness. Because without that grievousness, there's no reverence. And without the reverence, you can't give an impartation. The scripture says, "For no chastening at the present time seemeth to be joyous." And you need to make sure your kids ain't smiling while you're doing your chastening. If they smiling at you, you ain't grievous enough. You got to go as far as you need to go to make it extremely grievous. Achieve some grievousness. I don't care what it is. Take car, take job, take whatever you need to take. Add the rod in there, do whatever you need to do to make it grievous. Take television, take video games, take everything. Take Snapchat away, take Wi-Fi away, take whatever you need to take away to make it grievous. So that you get some reverence. It says, "For no chastening for at the present time seemeth to be joyous, but is grievous. But afterward it yielded the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them that are exercised thereby." Chastening helps to strengthen children when they turn out of the way. You got a child that's always turning out of the way, always disobedient, always stealing, always not showing reverence. They turning out of the way. Because the scripture says that they're supposed to honor their mother and their father. And the quickest way to get reverence back in the house is to bring forth grievous chastisement. And you have to be willing to go there. I don't care how far you have to go. You got to go further than they think you would go. You got to almost, like you say, you lose your mind. You better make it so that, look, you better not even dare think about it. Because however far you think you're going to go, I'm going to go 80 times further than that. But what's the purpose of that? To bring forth peaceable fruit. Peaceable fruit. What's peaceable? That means I can be joined to you again. Peaceable fruit of what? Righteousness. Come on now. We just need these kids to have some righteousness. Good behavior. A silent tongue when you're receiving correction. A spirit that ain't angry when somebody is correcting you. Some somebody come to you and tell you have doing something, then you need to be thanking them. They're doing you a favor because they are imparting into you a spirit of excellence. Because if you go take that have-do spirit out into the world, you're going to lose your job, and ain't no woman or no man going to want to be with you. Nobody like no have-do spirit. Do whatever you do in excellence. Daniel had the power of the Lord on his life. He had a spirit of excellence. I mean, you do the best work. If it's time for you to clean that kitchen, you do the best work. If it's time for you to clean that bathroom, you do the best work. And when it's time for you to clean your room, you do the best work. People shouldn't have to come in behind you and be like, oh, you don't see this big old pile of dirty clothes. You don't see these drawers on the floor. You don't see this maxi pad on the floor that you're going to leave there with the blood on it. You don't see that these sheets are nasty and dirty. You don't see that when you fixed food, you left it all over the table and you just walked off. Like gnats and roaches won't try to get their hands on that. Come on now, who got time for that? I remember my daddy said it to me one time. God teach people when their house nasty by sending them roaches. That's what my daddy said. That's what my daddy said. I'm going to give you an infestation of bugs to teach you how nasty your ways are. That's why we try to keep our house clean, because guess what? Gnats will come into your house. Flies will come into your house. Roaches will come into your house. Make their way all in there. When parents come to their children and say, clean up, they're doing them a favor. When they say you did that, they're doing you a favor. They're trying to impart into you a spirit of excellence, and they're trying to save you from an infestation that's coming to you. Yes. You don't get that nastiness out of your spirit. It's just pure nastiness. Nobody wants. Okay, let's go to a restaurant and some roaches crawl across your table and food is all over the floor. Are you eating it? No, you're not. And guess what's going to happen to those people? Not only will you lose that business, but the person that worked it and half cleaned, when all that business go away, they're going to be out of the job. Why? Because they have enough sense to clean the place up. Because nobody likes to eat in a nasty place. Some of y'all going to go and get married. You're going to take your nasty spirit into your marriage. Your spouse is going to look at you real funny when they see how nasty you are. And say something like, did your mama raise you better than this? Did your daddy raise you better than this? You going to leave your dirty drawers everywhere? I just cleaned this bathroom. You go in there and use it, and it looked like nobody ever cleaned it. You know what I'm talking about, Sister Carol? You ever cleaned a bathroom real good, somebody go in that bathroom, use it, and it don't look like you ever cleaned it.
They think they got a mile in the make.
That's an impartation. It's designed to help you. So fathers have to be willing to bring forth a little grievousness if you want the peaceable fruit of righteousness. And if you do not have reverence in your house, it's because there is no chastisement. You want reverence? Chastise. Now I want to go back to Ephesians 6 so I can finish there. Ephesians 6 and 4. And again, I want to deal with this provoking to wrath. Now, well, let me read Proverbs 22, verse 15 first. Proverbs 22, verse 15. And then after that, I'm going to read Proverbs 23, verse 13. Proverbs 22, verse 15. Now, the Bible said, Hebrews 12, that if the Lord love you, he'll chasten you. If the Lord love you, he'll chasten you. Why? Because only somebody that loves you will deal with your rebellion. Only somebody that really loves you will look at you and be like, that's uncleanness, and I need to get that out of your life. Only somebody that loves you will look at your lying mouth and say, you need to get rid of that. The Bible said lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. If I don't deal with your lying lips, you might leave this house being detestable to God. And that's not going to go well with you. Because you're going to take that lie to your job. You're going to take that lie to your wife or husband. And they're going to leave you because they're going to say, you lied and I don't trust nothing that come out of your filthy mouth. They're going to tell you need to go get saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. Because everything that come out of your mouth, and the devil is your daddy. He the father of lies. And you lying right along with it. Fathers look at that lying mouth and say, we need to help you get rid of that. Because you're going to be an abomination to God if I let you leave out here with that. If I don't show you some truth, you have Proverbs 22:15? Proverbs 22:15. It says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. It is a natural thing for a child to be foolish. Now, we can't hate our children because we look at them and see foolishness. Your job as a parent, your job as a father, is to deal with that foolishness. But you have to deal with it with measured aggression. Because we have the temptation of provoking the children to anger. Fathers provoke not your children to wrath. That's anger alongside. And also the other verse in Colossians, provoke not your children, italicized, to anger, lest they be disheartened or discouraged, or spiritless. In other words, if I don't deal with you in a measured way, I can come at you too hard and create other problems in you. See, the rod of correction is designed to drive out foolishness, but you can't use the rod every doggone time. Every answer in dealing with your child cannot be the rod. In fact, the scripture says it like this: fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but to raise them up in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. Let me read that verse. Come on, let me read the verse. Train them up. Let me read the verse. Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but to bring them up in the nurture, in this place, and in the admonition of the Lord. The word nurture means education or tutelage. This word admonition is calling attention to or a mild rebuke. See, there are some fathers out there that are just too hard on their children. And they bring up other issues in the heart, such as anger alongside. Don't provoke them with that. Or don't provoke your children to anger so that they be disheartened or discouraged, as the scripture says. In other words, they become spiritless. They don't even have they just don't care anymore. Just disheartened in a sense about life, just discouraged, just, downtrodden. That's not healthy. We are to raise them up in the nurture, the tutelage or education, and the admonition of the Lord. Calling attention to. Let me call your attention to this. Oh, let me give you a mild review. That's just nasty. That's unclean. You have did that. Watch that lying mouth. By the way, let me tell you something about that lying mouth. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. But if a man speaks the truth, you'll be his delight. You hear what I'm saying? God will look at you and favor you. And not only that, but your spouse will, and your boss will too. All you got to do is keep lying. Eventually, you're going to get caught in it. And when they look at you and catch you in their lie, every time they see you, they're going to think, look at this lie in my face. You can't believe nothing they say. And not only that, if you decide to live a life of lying, then you're following the pattern of the devil. You might as well just go be satanic. Because he's the father of lies. So fathers have to deal with their children in measured aggression. Yes, when you look at them, you will see foolishness. Now, don't be amazed when you see foolishness. You will look at your beautiful son, daughters, and see foolishness. Behavior of someone that's void of understanding. And you're going to look at them. Sometimes, and I'm talking to my mothers a little bit, we can be a little abusive with our mouths. You can cut the child down to bits with the mouth. And you should. But you have to understand this also, when God give them to you, they got some foolishness in them. And my job is to deal with this foolishness in a measured aggression type way. You shouldn't be losing control dealing with your children. You sick, evil, conniving. You should not be losing control dealing with your children. It has to be measured aggression. Sometimes it's just a speech. Sometimes it's just, let me show you what the scripture says like this. Or you quote the verse if you got it in your heart so you can impart something to them. Now, if you see a continued pattern of just disrespect, lying, stealing, challenging authority, then you come with the rod. But know that when God gives them to you, despite how beautiful their little faces are, how cute remind you of you when you look at them, it's some foolishness in that. They don't know any better. Go on with it. You're going with it. You're a little cute. You're so cute, but you got some foolishness in you. You got some foolishness in you. You're so cute. You're so cute, but you got some foolishness in you. Scripture says in Proverbs 23:13, withhold not correction from the child. But if thou beatest him with the rod, he should not die. Sometimes you have to beat them. And I think this goes along with this whole grievous thing. You need to make your lives grievous. Again, I want to encourage you that when you do it, let your aggression be measured and in love. Now, I'm getting ready to close. All of you, especially you children, are going to have families. You need to learn how to deal with your children with measured aggression. It has to be a balance of love and a balance of correction. It has to be a little bit of both. It cannot be all rebuke and correction. It needs to also be a balance of love. You don't want to bring the child to a place where they're disheartened or discouraged. You don't want to bring them to a place where broken wrath, anger alongside. There's some bitterness, some issues in their spirit because for whatever reason, some issues are going on there between them and them. That is not healthy for them as an adult or an individual. In fact, the scripture says that a root of bitterness can defile you. In other words, if you have a root of bitterness on the inside of you, then it can defile you, and that bitterness will end up separating you from the presence of God. Because they can't get over that hurdle of offense. You did me wrong. You abused me. Therefore, I can't forgive you for that. But when they say, I can't forgive you for that, they separate themselves from God. And they remain in a place of darkness and foolishness. When, if you forgive them, then you come into the presence of God, He heals your heart, and you can move on with your life. Now, it'd be a beautiful thing if a parent could come and say, you know what, I was wrong when I did that. Or maybe I was a little too hard on you, and I didn't give you a nice balance of love and a nice balance of discipline. But it needs to be both. I think we got some parents that's doing too much love and no discipline. And we got parents that's too much discipline but no love. Do something good for them sometime if you're on the discipline side. Compliment them when they do something worthy of praise. Look for something that you can praise them for. Hey, you don't do everything wrong. Let me find something I can give you. I give you credit. Them shoes are clean. Them shoes are clean. Them shoes nice. I'll give you something. Needs to be a balance. Sean, you're going to be a father one day. It needs to be balanced. Donna, you're going to be a father one day. It needs to be balanced. Love and correction. Measured aggression. All right, let's get ready to pray. Father, we just receive your word today on fatherhood. Lord, I ask that you would teach us all as parents to have balance. Let us not be too aggressive. Let us not also be too lacking as it relates to being willing to bring correction. Just all friendship and lovey-dovey without correction. Lord, we acknowledge that when you give us our children, that they're going to have some foolishness in them. And we can't hate them because they have that foolishness. But let us be willing to teach them, to bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. the tutelage and education, and the mild rebuke and calling attention to of the Lord. Lord, help us to have balance. You want the Lord to just give you balance in your fatherhood, your motherhood. Just give them a nice wave offering, Lord, as a sign. Lord, I pray that you give us all balance, Lord. Let us not be too soft, but let us not be too mean, Lord. Let us not be all correction, but no love, Lord. Let us have a nice balance, Lord. Lord, I pray for the homes where there is no reverence, that you give the parent the power and the strength to bring correction, to bring in some correction and some grievousness, Lord, some chastisement, so that reverence can be received. Parent can be imparted into. Lord, I pray that none of us here would have any bastards. Lord, I pray that every soul in this place would commit to their children. Don't leave them without a father. I pray every mother would commit to their children. Don't leave them without a mother. Father, we bless you for it. Give you the praise, glory, and honor in Jesus' name. Amen. Anyone need to be washed by the blood before we go? I know we took a blood bath before service started. Everybody good in this place? It's all right to say you're good. I'm all right. Look like we all good. Okay.